Lisa, and behind the camera is Amanda. Today we're going to be talking about why it's so hard to find a Christian guy and some helpful tips to try and find a Christian guy. So, as you guys know, my name's Isa, I'm 25 or 24, but post-college anyway, and it's so hard to find a guy, especially when all your friends have found guys in college or they've just been married since they were 20 and you're just like, what the hell? And now you're like 24 years old and you're just like, man, like, I would really like to date. You know, I've been working for 2 years, 3 years, and now I'm kind of like, I got everything under control and made that adjustment, but I can't find anyone, and you've kind of exhausted your social circles. And so you try apps, you go into Bumble or Tinder or Christian Mingle or Boy Meets Girl. I don't even know.
Boy Meets Girl.
That's not
The new app we're designing.
Exactly. No, you just go into apps and you try and find someone and you can't find them and they're weird, or they put that they're Christian and then you meet them and they only go to church like Easter and, you know, Christmas, or they're just not real Christians, you know, and you want someone that is a real Christian and who actually lives out the life of a Christian, and who reads their Bible and who has a relationship with God and who is surrounded by Christian friends and family members. You know, and it's part of their life and it's not a big deal. It's just who they are. It's not what they are. It's not a label. You know, it's an actual lifestyle. So we were talking about this, and I actually was dating this really good guy. He was amazing because I'm 5'10". He was like 6'4". He was, he played sports. He was super sweet. Took me on a bomb date. Like, everything was great. And I met him through an app. And I was like, okay, this is not the guy, but this is like going well. And, you know, maybe we can turn this into a relationship. And he was on board. Like, he really wanted it too. But then, like, we had this huge, it wasn't a disagreement, but just this conversation that led to us realizing that it wouldn't work because I was Christian. He was atheist. So he led me to believe that he was agnostic, but really when he was describing his lifestyle and what he believed, it was pretty much atheist. He didn't believe that there was a God at all. He wanted kids, and I was on the fence about it, but even if we did have kids, he wanted to raise them atheist, or at least raise them with no singular God, or no singular religion in mind. You know, it was just like, do whatever you want. You can be Hindu, you can be this, you can be that. Don't go to church, don't go to a temple, just do whatever you want. Which is fine, but I wanted to raise my children going to church with me and, you know, reading the Bible and praying, you know, before we eat, and he wouldn't encourage any of that. And so that, plus he was always away for 6 months, and there was like all this other long distance stuff, which wouldn't have tanked the relationship, but also added to it. I realized that this wouldn't work. And so now I'm like on a quest to find someone who is like me, who is Christian, who wants to, you know, get deeper into the word, who isn't ashamed to be a follower of Christ. So that's what this video is about. And I'm sure a lot of you guys kind of feel this way. And so we're gonna kind of talk about how hard it is, and then also how we can identify a guy or a good Christian guy for ourselves, right? All right, so basically stick to your guns. You will find a Christian man. You don't want to settle for anyone less than Christian, and also less than all the other good things: hardworking, smart, diligent, caring, emotionally intelligent, hardworking, athletic if you care about that, tall if you're 5'10", and other things like that. You are gonna find someone. Stick to your guns, stick to who you are, and you will find someone that God has ordained for you. How to find a Christian man. So the first thing, as I said earlier, was find someone in church. So if you don't go to church, if you kind of, you know, watch online, or you do whatever, or you're not diligent about going to church, definitely start going to church. There's hopefully a church around you that you kind of feel ministers to you, and you kind of get a lot of things out of it. If you don't go to church, another thing you can do, or hopefully in tangent with going to church, is go to Christian events, as we said. So not just going to like church on Sundays or Saturdays or whenever you go, but then also going to like young adult services or women's conferences, or that's only going to be women, but like conferences in general, or what else does my church do? They do a lot of like Easter celebrations and Easter conferences. They do like a lot of get-togethers, and then from the young adults, they also have like all these different types of spin-offs. So they have like, if you go to this specific young adults conference or or get together every Friday, then they have like potlucks. They have like a get together in someone's house. They have someone's celebration or someone's birthday. One time they had like a wedding anniversary and people came for that. And then you develop different, friends groups or friend groups. And so you expand and you're able to not just hang out with your like coworkers and your college friends. You start to have like more Christian-centered friends. And maybe you don't find someone there, maybe someone's brother or someone's cousin is the person you start to date or whatever.
Networking.
You just never know, right? You network. So that's one way. I would strongly recommend going to church-related events. That would be one. And then also just spending time with your Christian friends. So a lot of us, we have like friends who are Christian, we have friends who are atheists, friends who are Muslim, and that's fine. Like one of my closest friends is actually Muslim. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're trying to find a guy who is Christian, hanging out with your Christian friends and exploring those options and doing Christian related things is definitely going to help you. You may just go to the grocery store with your atheist friend and find a Christian pastor's son right there. I mean, you never know, but hanging out with Christian people and surrounding yourself with a Christian circle definitely helps. And then, I mean, one thing that is overlooked is just praying, just kind of committing it to God and just saying, God, I'm looking for someone to spend the rest of my life with. I want to share my values, my religious values. I want them to be this, 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 and that. And just kind of list it out and let God kind of know what you want and commit it to Him. And so that's one that people don't really talk about, but yeah, we are Christians and we do believe in God and we do think that God has our best interests at hand or in mind. And so I would say committing it to God and trying to let it be His way as opposed to yours. And then you may end up going to the grocery store and finding your Prince Charming.
The pasta aisle.
Maybe, yes. So those are like quick little things that are kind of obvious, but we don't really talk about or we don't really think about. But spending time with Christian people will give you more Christian friends. And more Christian friends can let you expand your social circle to find maybe the one. Who knows? Maybe. So as Christian girls, what are we looking for? So if you see a guy who is going to church, who is, spending time with his Christian friends, that's obvious, he's a Christian. But if you want more than that, you want a guy who has a relationship with God. So if you, for example, meet someone on an app and he says he's Christian, how do you know that he's actually Christian? So some tips and tricks that I do, especially as you guys have seen this relationship I just got out of with this athlete, like what I'm now trying to do to avoid a situation like that is these things. So number one, I talk to him and I say, what is your relationship with God? And don't even say Christianity, don't use any kind of religion terms or anything, just say, what is your relationship with God? And if he talks about Jesus Christ, he talks about salvation, he talks about dying on the cross and resurrecting, he talks about just, the Christian terms, and you can say, okay, yeah, he seems like he's a Christian, but this guy, as I said, he seemed like, he told me he was agnostic, but he was really atheist. So some people are confused. And so you need to make sure that you also have enough knowledge about Christianity so that you can start to discern in other people who they are, as opposed to just their arbitrary labels. So that's one thing. Another thing I would say is, like, does he take the word of God seriously? So if you're quoting a scripture and he's just like, oh yeah, whatever. Or if he uses and I do this sometimes, which is really bad, but I'm trying to get out of it. If he uses the Lord's name in vain, or if he just continuously curses, or if he's just not walking in the word, if he's not an example and he's just not an obvious Christian, you're just kind of like, okay, you don't want to judge him, but you want to make sure that, okay, if you're Christian, then there's some things you should be doing as a Christian, and taking the word of God seriously and living out the word and going to church and treating yourself with respect as you are the temple of God, then it should be evident in his actions. If it's not evident, then that's something to look out for. Another thing is not being, sorry, I'm reading my notes, but not perfect, but yeah, so one thing I was gonna say is that he may not be perfect. So he may say he's a Christian, he may make mistakes. We all make mistakes, that's fine. But you want someone that you can grow with. Like, Christianity is a journey. And you want someone that you can say, okay, I'm not perfect, you're not perfect. I'm really young in my Christianity, and maybe you are, maybe you're a little bit ahead of me or a little bit behind me, that's fine. But how can we grow together and make our relationship stronger while making our Christianity stronger? So that's kind of the commitment you want. You don't want someone just to be taking you out on dates. That's fine. You don't want someone just to be going to the gym with you. that's fine. You want to also feed your spirituality. So you have spirituality, you have finances, you have emotional intelligence, you have psychological awareness, you have mental stability. You have all these different parts of your lifestyle, or parts of things that make up your lifestyle. But spirituality is like the most important. I mean, if he's Christian, it's a big, big deal, because, and this is what I realized, like if you don't date a Christian, then it's gonna affect you. You know, as you say, the people you surround yourself with, those are the kinds of people that's how you will become. Or what is it? Tell me the 5 people that you surround yourself with and I'll tell you who you are. And so today, if you start dating a non-Christian or an atheist or whatever, in 2 years' time, you may still be a Christian, but you may not be a strong Christian, or you may not have developed just Christianity more if you had just been dating someone who was Christian. Did that make sense? Hopefully it did. But basically, you should try and surround yourself with Christians. And so dating a Christian is obviously the best bet. Then another thing I would say is, does he involve himself with church activities? So is he kind of volunteering? Is he in charity? Is he kind of not submerging himself, but kind of doing different things that would allow you to think, okay, he's a Christian outside of church. You don't want just someone that just goes to church once a week and then for 2 hours and that's it. You know, you want him to live through his Christianity. And so involving himself with like maybe being a deacon or being a volunteer, or just doing 1 or 2 things that show, wow, you know, he is charitable, he is giving, he does exude the values, you know, that the Bible preaches and teaches. That's a really big thing. That's one thing I would say. And then just in general, does he like live out his life? So the way he would treat you, the way he would act to others, act to strangers, be in his church, treat his parents, you know, treat his dog, react to different people, react to a shortcoming. Does he refer back to the Bible? Does he refer back to something Christian-based? Or does he refer always to secular stuff? And so, I mean, you can always refer to like, you know, a psychologist said this, or, you know, a motivational speaker said this, but does he ever say, oh, a pastor said this, or, you know, in the Bible it says this? Does he talk about things through the lens of Christianity, or is he always kind of geared to secular stuff? That's kind of how I would kind of see if he's a Christian or not, because you can't really judge someone by what they say. You know, if you meet a guy and he's, oh, I'm Christian, but he never goes to church, he never talks about God, he's never surrounded by Christians, he's kind of mean or irritated, or just quick to anger, or he steals or cheats, or, you know, these kinds of things are not exuding a person who is inundated by Christianity, by God. Okay, so Amanda just stopped the recording to say a good point. So basically what she was, do you want to say it or should I say it?
You can say it.
Okay. So basically what she was saying is you'd never want to forego on all your other values. Like, I want a man that's hardworking. I want a man that's emotionally intelligent. I want a man that's sweet, caring, charismatic. You know, just all the good things that you have outlined, but you don't want to just forego all of that because you find someone who's Christian. You want to find someone who's Christian that also has all your other values that you care about. You may not find a perfect person, or they may be growing in those areas, but you never want to be like, oh, he's not hardworking, he's a slob, he's lazy, you know, like he's not ambitious, he's not driven, he treats me really badly, but he goes to church every day.
So
like,
it's fine. Everything's
exactly.
fine.
You don't want that. Just like you don't want someone who treats you really well, but is broke. He can't buy you anything. Like, you want someone that is this is why you didn't want to say it.
What?
But you want someone that's balanced. You know, you want someone that is on your level. So, for example, if you're not making too much money and, you know, you're just trying to figure everything out, you're going through college, or you're going through a certain part of your life, and you're not really stable, you may be okay with someone who's also not stable because you're not stable. But if you've gotten in that situation, you probably don't want to date. You probably want to focus on your life and figure it out until you reach a stability that you can then, you know, can warrant you spending time elsewhere. So if you get to that point where you're like, you know what, I want to date a Christian guy, you need to make sure you know what you want. And that's what she's basically saying. Like, you want someone that's Christian, but you also have things that are really important to you. Like, for me, let's just be honest, I need someone who's tall. You know, I'm 5'10", I wear heels, I model a lot, so I want someone who's 6'3". I may date someone who's 6'1", but in general, I'm not gonna date someone who's 5'6". Let's just be real. Another thing that's important to me is athleticism. I like to work out. I want someone that also works out. So, but you may not care about working out because it's not important to you. You know, walking your dog is enough. So try and articulate, not exhaustively, but just a couple of things that are really important to you, Christianity being number one, and then the other one, so that you don't forget, and when you meet someone in church, outside of church, in a church parking lot, outside of church, at a church event, outside of church, wherever you meet someone, in church or not, you can then make sure that they tick a couple of those boxes that are really, or actually all of the boxes that are really important, and then maybe a couple others that are less important. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to date someone that's just not the right person for you, and you know what you want, and you know where you are in life. And so if you meet someone and he's not right for you, he's not going to compliment you, you need to make sure you call that out and you discuss it or you think about it before embarking on that relationship. You never want to be stuck with someone that is not going to push you forward and be on that journey with you in life and in Christianity. So I know it's kind of hard. We're all kind of dealing with it, honestly. Even for me, right? This happened a couple weeks ago. I thought this guy was amazing, and I didn't even ask him if he was Christian. And then when I did, I was so shocked that he wasn't even agnostic. Like, okay, maybe he can convert, you know, maybe he can come with me to church and see and, you know, have this optimistic perspective. But he was like straight up, I don't believe in God. I don't want my kids to believe in God. I don't want to put that label on them. I don't want them going to church. Like, so I was like, oh crap, you know, I spent all this time with you and you've been an amazing person, but the number one thing is missing. So it's really important that we kind of make sure we're looking at that from the beginning, from the get-go. And you know what I was saying to my friends? I was like, oh, I met this great guy, but he just doesn't have this one little thing. It's not one little thing. This is a big deal. And so if he doesn't have that whole spiritual side down, I mean, it's going to affect every part of your life. So just kind of go with it and try and figure it out. It's not easy, but hopefully these tips and tricks are kind of helpful for you. Church-based, not just restricted to church, but also church activities. Asking questions like, you know, if he prays a lot, if he spends time with God, how he acts in his actions, what he says with his words, how he treats you. All these will give you a good idea of who he actually is and what God he actually serves. So it could be money, it could be Jesus Christ.
Go.
Okay, so one other thing I wanted to talk about. So for me personally, my mom and dad, so this is how they met, right? So they met in France and, well, England or France. I always go back and forth, but I think it was England, but they said it was, anyway, they met in Europe where I was born. And my dad was a Muslim, and then he converted to become a Christian. Shortly after, he met my mom, and my mom's parents, one was Christian, one was Muslim. So my mom was like all over the place. She was like, I don't know what this religion thing is. So she was kind of like an agnostic at that point. And so when she met my dad, who was this super gung-ho Christian, just converted and all that, my dad was like, you know, I need someone Christian. And my mom was like, I don't know. And they kind of grew into, because my dad was a new Christian. My mom was like, she had known about Christianity all her life, but she was never really committed because her other parent was like, I'm Muslim. So anyway, when they got married, which they ended up doing, and had me, they built on their Christianity. So I know a lot of times you may think, okay, this guy isn't a Christian, or this guy is way ahead of me as a Christian. You know, what does this mean? You just have to realize that sometimes it will work out. And so when I look at that from myself and I see my mom and dad and how close they are right now, my dad's a pastor, my mom is super Christian, in a good way, not crazy, calm down. But they're both really strong Christians. That makes me realize, you know what? You can meet anyone at any stage of your life and become Christian or continue being Christian to the point where it impacts your whole life. And so now all of us kids are strong Christians because we've always seen my mom and dad as normal people, but just always striving to be, you know, more more Christian-like and more Jesus-like, and following in that footsteps and being focused on the Bible and just going to church regularly and things like that. So I would say, you know, it's easy to look at your parents and say, oh, I want, you know, they actually say that as a girl, you would want to marry your dad, someone like your dad, or you would want to marry someone that's the complete opposite from your dad. I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't investigated. Don't quote me on that. But what I'm trying to say is, when you are thinking of, who you want to date, it's easy to look at your parents if they're still together, or if they're divorced, and be like, I want something like that, or I don't want anything like that. But what's more important is not just to compare and contrast, but just to see what's in you and who you are and where you want to go, and then see if this guy is gonna help you get there. It's really hard to do at the beginning because you don't want to be that girl that's like, oh, let's get married now and I think that this could work. But you don't want to be so blindsided and be like, I don't want to think about it, to the point where you're dating him for 2 years and then you realize, oh wait, would this even work? No. And then you wasted all that time and it's so hard to break up, and it's just one of those things. So what I would say, and I'm saying this to myself as well, is take one day at a time. Try and use different people in your lives as examples: your parents, your friends, relationships, your aunts, uncles, your mentors, whoever you have in your life, in your circle. And then so use them to help you guide what you want. And then from there, be complete in yourself. So be mentally stable, emotionally stable, financially stable, academically successful, professionally successful, whatever it is, so that you can then go ahead and start dating. Don't be half-assed, because the thing is, you're looking for a guy who is this and that, but then are you? Because like, okay, so one of my friends, this is how she was like a girl that's like, I need a guy, who is making 100,000 minimum, that can take me out here and there, that can do my nails for me, that like will leave me alone, but then be all over me at the same time. Just like weird things. But I'm like, okay, so if you found this amazing guy, would he want you? And she got so offended. But it's true, because okay, you want this guy that's hardworking, that's making a lot of money, but then also has a lot of time for you, that is gonna treat you right, that's gonna buy your mom gifts, that's gonna like have kids whenever this girl, like she was crazy. I don't really talk to her anymore. But anyway, but then she was just kind of like, not like that kind of guy would have talked to her, because she didn't have her stuff. Okay, sorry, that was my phone. But yeah, she basically didn't have what she was looking for. So I would say, just goes back to just being humble and making sure that you are presenting the best version of yourself. If you're looking to date, period, you need to be able to be strong on your own, have self-esteem, have a vision of who you are and what you want to do, understand what drives you and motivates you, be on a trajectory of success and just wholesomeness. If you don't have those things, don't date. Don't date. And then if you do have it, look for a Christian, look for someone who is on that path to spiritual acceleration. Look for someone who is going to make God a priority, that is going to advise you, not so much with secular, which is fine, secular terms, but also inserting, Bible scriptures and, just kind of drawing you closer to God. If that person does that, then they're who you're looking for. If they don't, then they're not. And that's it. So I don't want us to make it more complicated than it is. We know what we're looking for. It's so easy to spot the red flags, so we always just ignore them. So it doesn't matter who you're looking at. It doesn't matter what you want. As long as you're in the right mindset, in the right time of your life, as you know it to be, you will find someone as long as you keep going forward. Don't just stay stagnant trying to find someone who is Christian, who is whatever, because at the end of the day, they don't make you who you are. You are yourself. You are great on your own. You are a success. You just need someone that can add a little spice. That is all they are. They are not going to add to who you are. And that's the biggest thing I feel like a lot of people date because they want to supplement some hole or some void in their lives. Whether they're Christian or not, that's not going to help. You need to be holistically and wholeheartedly whole. And then from there, you will be able to have someone that can accent you or can supplement you and that can add to you in a way that is not pertaining to who you are as a person, but what you do and where you go, and they can just add to you in that way. So be holistic, be someone that is, just be the best version of yourself. That's it. And continue to do that intrinsically. And then find someone that will then add to you on the second level. Does that make sense? All right, we're wrapping up because hopefully this is not like a 10-minute video. But hopefully that helps. We are all trying to find someone Christian, but at the end of the day, before you can find someone Christian, you need to find someone, period. But before you can find someone, period, you need to make sure that you are someone that should be found. And if you are, then you're gonna have a great relationship. All right, thank you guys. My name is Issa, that's Amanda, and this is Issa's Essence.
Bye.
Bye.